Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Engineering and Technology, SOET, Certificate Programs Postgraduate Certificate, Advanced Certificate in Power Distribution Management, ACPDM, BE-001 Power Distribution Sector, Block-1 Power Distribution Sector, Unit-1 Power Sector in the country. 1.1 Introduction. Electrical power is essential for economic development and for improving the quality of life. It is the key input to any economic activity in industry, agriculture, trade, commerce, or the service sector. A rapidly developing economy like ours faces an ever-increasing demand for electrical power. There has been tremendous improvement and augmentation in capacity addition and transmission and distribution networks since independence. However, we still have significant shortage of power supply in our country. All of us face the ever-increasing problem of power cuts or no power supply. What measures are needed to cater to this demand for electricity? What are the key issues and challenges that need to be addressed to provide reliable and good quality power supply? What steps can be taken to meet the challenges before the power sector? We shall attempt to find answers to these questions in this unit. It is our belief that armed with an understanding of these issues, you will be better prepared to handle the problems in the power sector. 1 point to the electricity sector in India, an overview. We begin by constructing an overall picture of the electricity sector in India so that you do not look at the power distribution sector in isolation but acquire a wider perspective. An electric supply system has three main components: power generating station, transmission lines, and distribution lines. Fig. 1.1 shows a typical electric power supply system. It comprises generating units that produce electricity, high voltage transmission lines that transport electricity over long distances, low voltage distribution lines that deliver electricity to consumers, substations, which are the part of the electricity transmission and distribution system where the voltages are transformed to lower levels for distributing power to end users, and energy control centers to coordinate the operation of the components. Look at the screen for table content. Fig. 1.1. A typical electric power supply system. We shall discuss about generation and transmission of electricity very briefly in the Indian context and then focus on the power distribution sector. 1.2.1 Power generation. Do you know what the total electricity generation by power utilities was in 1947? It was a meager 1362 megawatt. It has increased 100 times in about 60 years. Fig. 1.2. Another 14,636 megawatts of captive generating capacity is also connected to the grid. Figure 1.2. Total electricity generation, actual and projected. Look at the screen for table content. Though there is a significant increase in power generation capacity in the last 60 years, we still have a long way to go. You know that our country is still plagued by severe power shortages. As per official statistics, the total energy shortage during the year 2005 to 2006 stood at 8.3%, and the peak shortage was 12.3% during the same period. Inadequate generation capacity is one of the reasons for power shortage. Based on the 16th EPS projections, over 1 lakh megawatts generation capacity is required to be added during the 10th and 11th plan period, i.e. by 2012, to bridge the gap between supply and demand of power. Let us look at the power generation sector very briefly to understand the options available to us. Electric power generation in India relies on four basic energy sources: fossil fuels such as coal, oil and natural gas, hydroelectricity, nuclear power, and renewable energy sources such as biofuels, solar, biomass, wind and tidal. As of September 2006, about 66% of the power generated in India is from coal-based thermal power plants. The hydroelectric power plants account for about 26% of total electricity generation, nuclear power plants for about 3%, and the remaining 5% comes from renewable energy resources, FIG. 1.3. FIG. 1.3. Electric power generation source mix in India. Look at the screen for table content. Future directions. The Government of India has envisaged installed capacity of 212,000 megawatts by the year 2012 to meet its mission of power to all. The large coal reserves in the country provide a ready and economical resource and ensure energy security as of now. Hence, coal has been identified as the mainstay fuel for power generation till 2012. The government has also committed to generate 10% of its power from renewable energy by the year 2012. The overall potential for renewable energy generation is around 172,000 megawatts. Of this, less than 7,000 megawatts has been realized so far. In fact, the Electricity Act, 2003, about which you will study in the next unit, mandates all state electricity regulatory commissions, SERCs, for fixing a minimum percentage of procurement from renewable energy. The entry of renewable energy can help us in meeting present peaking power and general shortages. Another step in this direction is the scheme of allowing captive power generation, which refers to generation from a unit set up by an individual, cooperative society, or industry for their own consumption. Industries in the manufacturing sector, e.g., cement, aluminium, fertilizers, steel, paper, sugar, etc., have their own captive power plants to supplement the electricity purchased from utilities or for producing energy. This has implications for the utilities, as you will learn in the next section. Do you know? India ranks 6th in the world in terms of electricity generation after the United States of America, China, Japan, Russia and Canada. However, the annual per capita consumption in India, at about 606 kilowatt-hours per year, 2004 to 2005, is amongst the lowest in the world. A comparison with China. China adds more than 28,000 megawatts of capacity, on an average, annually. India has been able to add only 4,500 megawatts annually. China's T&D losses are less than 10% compared to India's more than 30%. Almost 97% of China's households have access to electricity while India trails way behind with less than 50%. The annual per capita consumption in China is 1,255 kilowatt-hours as compared to India's 606 kilowatt-hours. China's generation capacity has grown from 1,850 megawatts in 1950 to 508,000 megawatts in 2005. Compare this with India's growth shown in Fig. 1.2. 1.2.2 Transmission and distribution. In India, the power plants typically produce 50 cycles second, Hz, alternating current, AC, with voltages between 11 kV and 33 kV. Electric power is brought from the power plant to the consumer through an extensive transmission and distribution (T&D) system comprising distribution networks, state grids, and regional grids. The various stages of the process are given below. At the power plant site, the three-phase voltage is generated and stepped up to a higher voltage for transmission on cables strung on cross-country towers. High voltage, HV, and extra high voltage, EHV, transmission is the next stage to transport AC power from the power plant over long distances at voltages like 220 kV, 400 kV, and 760 kV. For longer distances and higher powers, higher voltages are economical. In special cases HVDC, high voltage direct current transmission, is preferred. Subtransmission network at 132 kV, 110 kV, 66 kV or 33 kV constitutes the next link towards the end user. Distribution at 11 kV, 6.6 kV, 3.3 kV constitutes the last link to the consumer, who is connected directly or through step-down transformers. These transformers bring the voltage levels down to 400 V for three-phase, four-wire secondary distribution. The single-phase residential lighting load is connected between any phase and neutral. 230 V and three-phase load is connected across three-phase lines directly. The transmission and distribution network includes substations, lines and distribution transformers. Substations, containing step-down transformers, reduce the voltage for distribution to industrial, commercial and residential customers. These substations and distribution lines are referred to as the distribution system. Transmission lines are usually capable of transmitting large quantities of electrical energy over long distances. They operate at high voltages. Distribution lines carry limited quantities of power over shorter distances. The state electricity boards, SEBs, or state governments, through the state electricity departments, primarily own and operate the distribution networks and state grids. The Power Grid Corporation of India Limited, PGCIL, owns and operates most of the interregional transmission lines, forming a part of the national grid, in order to facilitate transfer of surplus power to a deficit region. The entire country has currently been divided into 5 regions or zones. For transmission systems, namely, Northern Region, Northeastern Region, Eastern Region, Southern Region and Western Region. The interconnected transmission system within each region is also called the regional grid. Each region or zone has its load control center. The establishment of a national power grid by the year 2012 is being planned with an interregional power transfer capacity of about 37,150 megawatts. A prospective transmission plan has been evolved for strengthening the regional grids with the objective of establishing a strong and vibrant national grid to support the envisaged generating capacity addition of 1 lakh megawatts. This move is expected to help in optimal development and utilization of coal and hydro resources. It is also aimed at improving the economy, reliability, and quality of power supply. For example, the energy resources in our country are unevenly distributed. The coal resources are abundant in Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa and West Bengal, and hydro resources are mainly concentrated in northern and northeastern regions. That is, some regions do not have adequate natural resources for setting power plants to meet their future requirements, whereas others have abundant natural resources. The national power grid as an integrated entity can serve as an effective tool to accommodate energy needs of different regions and transfer electricity from power surplus regions to power deficit regions. A major portion of the distribution network is controlled by SEBs or their restructured entities and a very small section by private power utilities. As a part of this system, you are responsible for its efficient working. You will agree that a well-managed power distribution network holds the key to consumer satisfaction, a healthy economy, and national prosperity. We have so far presented a broad picture of the electricity sector in India. It is unfortunate that in spite of having abundant energy resources and a large pool of highly skilled human capital, we are faced with many problems in all 3 components of the power supply system: generation, transmission, and distribution. We list some of these in Table 1.1. You may like to add to the list. Table 1.1. Problems in the generation, transmission, and distribution segments of the power sector. Look at the screen for table content. The end users of electricity, like households, farmers, commercial establishments, and industries, confront many problems such as frequent power cuts, both scheduled and unscheduled, faulty metering, and inflated billing. Erratic voltage and low or high supply frequency have further added to the power woes of the consumer. Further, people in a large number of villages and small towns have limited or no access to electricity. Have you asked yourself, where does the problem lie? What areas require to be improved? How can we bring about a change for the better? We shall address these and other such questions in Sec. 1.3. 1.3 Key issues and challenges before the distribution sector. Electric power supply has been viewed both as public right and public service in our country ever since independence. The government provided this service till the last decade of the 20th century. However, ill management and poor governance led to rising deficits and turned SEBs into sick organizations. As a working professional in SEB's private utilities, you may have also come across unpleasant situations arising out of individual and collective societal concerns at some point of time. You will study about these issues and ways of managing them in detail at different places in all courses of this program. The changed scenario of economic liberalization and globalization has impacted the power distribution utilities. The utilities have now to be managed more efficiently, generate revenues, and provide better services to the consumers. Many challenges and issues have emerged in the operation and management of the utilities. Some of these are shortage of power, poor management, high technical and commercial losses, including theft and pilferage of electricity, non-remunerative tariff structure based on irrational subsidies, privatization and restructuring, low consumer satisfaction, poor quality power. We now briefly discuss each one of these issues. As a working professional in SEB's private utilities, you may have also come across unpleasant situations arising out of individual and collective societal concerns at some point of time. You will study about these issues and their in detail at different places in all courses of this program. Shortage of power. You will agree that power cuts or frequent interruption in the power supply have serious ramifications on the overall economy of our country. Lack of electric supply leads to tremendous loss in industrial output, including loss to the power industry, and causes inconvenience to consumers. For example, the northern grid collapses in January 2001 resulted in losses to the tune of Rs 250 to 500 crore for the power industry alone. You may like to answer the following suck before proceeding further. Do you know that during the peak hours, 1/5 of India remains powerless? The peak load demand in the country is about 15% to 20% more than the available generating capacity. This is one of the major reasons for frequent and prolonged power cuts during peak hours. But the demand for electricity is not the same at all times of the day. So it should be possible to manage the usage of electricity in a way that the power demand stays steady most of the time. How does your utility manage this demand? You can read more about demand management in Block 1 of the course BEE-002 entitled Energy Management and IT Applications. Another reason for power shortage lies in frequent breakdowns in the power distribution system. This is linked to the larger issue of the poor management of power utilities. Poor management of distribution utilities. Most of the distribution utilities are like sick giants suffering from ills such as poor infrastructure, financial crunch, non-professional management of the system, low tariffs, high technical and commercial losses, power theft and misuse, corruption and erosion of values, political interference, etc. Let us take a brief look at some of these factors. Times poor infrastructure. This is a bane for the distribution utilities. The reasons are many as shown in Fig. 1.4. Fig. 1.4. Reasons for poor infrastructure. Study this figure and then answer Suck 3. Suck 3 reasons for poor infrastructure. Which of the reasons for poor infrastructure given in Fig. 1.4 Apply to your utility? Put a tick mark in the box if yes. If there are any other reasons, list them in the margin. Times financial crunch. Power is a critical infrastructure for economic growth. The economic acceleration would greatly depend upon a commercially viable power sector. The reality is that most of the power utilities, particularly the state electricity boards, are in a financial mess today. Their losses have gone up more than 5 times in the last decade. A vast majority of states show a negative rate of return. The average revenue per unit does not cover even the cost of supply. There is a gap of about 80 paisa per unit. Fig. 1.5 The electricity value chain. Look at the screen for table unit. SEBs run huge deficits that deter prospective investors. The accounts of SEBs are not up to date. There are no asset registers, and the liabilities of SEBs are not fully known. There are huge outstanding payments to various central power sector undertakings and large receivables. As per a report of TEVI, the Energy and Resources Institute based in Delhi, SEBs owe 260 billion rupees to the NTPC and others. The reasons for the poor financial health of distribution utilities are many and listed in Table 1.2. Study the table and then answer SUC 5. Table 1.2. Reasons for poor financial health. Look at the screen for table unit. All the factors mentioned above have added to the financial burden of the distribution utilities with ominous effect on their financial health. Commercial viability of the distribution sector is the key to growth and development of the sector, since this is the source of flow of money into the system. The financial resources so generated can be used to fund major infrastructure improvements and upgrading the distribution system. Thus, restoring the financial health of the distribution utility is a major challenge today. A. Non-professional management of the system. Do you agree with the following statements? Put yes or no against each statement. Most distribution utilities operate in a traditional style without adopting professional management practices. Their emphasis seems to be more on paperwork. The skills and knowledge base of the staff working in the distribution utilities are not upgraded continuously. They are not properly trained in various operations, latest technologies, and proper maintenance of systems on a continuous basis. New technology in metering, etc. also has not been adopted due to the huge initial cost. Most utilities still rely on manual systems and clerical entries. This is an inefficient way of functioning and also aids corruption. As far as possible, all operations of the utility, e.g., meter reading, billing, and invoicing, should be computerized. Overstaffing and indiscipline is a common phenomenon in distribution utilities. Moreover, there is a shortage of skilled workforce in important technical and professional areas. Lack of commercial culture, accountability, and transparency in operations are some other areas of concern in the management of utilities. As a result, performers, who may be few, get subsumed by the non-performers. The following could be some of the reasons for this state of affairs. Since their inception, the utilities were generally operating without a focus on commercial viability. The idea was to reach to a wider customer base in India and ensure widespread electrification as far as possible. The managements never stressed on accountability of individual employee officer to the utility and the consumers. Also, the employees did get an opportunity to be heard on various issues related to good management. The system lacked transparency. There is general lack of concern for public property, decline in value system, and work culture. What other reasons can you think of? High technical and commercial losses. The power distribution sector suffers from very high aggregate technical and commercial losses, at&c, which range up to 60%. This is a matter of grave concern as it amounts to a revenue loss of $6 billion annually, which is equivalent to 2% of India's GDP. These losses have historically doubled every 3 years and are twice of what our country spends on health and half of the total expenditure on education. Any solution that addresses the problem of profitability of the sector must target the issue of Tandi losses. Some reasons for technical and commercial losses are summarized in Figure 1.6. Look at the screen for table content. Figure 1.6. Main factors underlying technical and commercial losses. It should be possible to bring down the technical losses in the distribution system to the level of 9% by undertaking suitable system improvement schemes. However, this has not been possible for want of adequate funds, perseverance, and professional development of the staff concerned. Unless these losses are reduced to acceptable levels, the power industry cannot become financially viable and turn itself around. The commercial losses of distribution utilities are likely to increase from Rs. 400 crore in 1991 to 1992 to Rs. 24,000 crore, projected, in 2006 to 2007. These are mainly due to theft and pilferage, low metering efficiency, inefficient billing, and inadequate revenue collection. The common thread running through these aspects is lack of sensitivity and a sense of belongingness to the system. Do you know? At an all-India level, only 55% of electricity is billed and about 40% is realized. Of the remaining 60%, around 10% is supplied to the unmetered category, and the rest 50% constitutes Tandi losses. You will learn about this issue in detail in Block 4 of this course. Here we will briefly outline the major concerns. Times theft and pilferage of electricity. Theft and pilferage of electricity is a prevalent undesirable feature in most of the states. Across India, the theft of power between generation and supply runs as high as 20 to 40%. It is estimated that the theft level in Delhi is 35% as against 15% in Mumbai and 25% in West Bengal. The reported figure of national average of 21% Tandi losses is an underestimate of what is actually lost. Even in well-run utilities, pilferage could be to the extent of 6 to 7%. There are estimates that at least one-third of all power produced gets stolen with the connivance of the staff, bureaucrats, and politicians. Power thefts are carried out by the poor and rich alike, with tapped electric lines, poles, tampering with meters being pretty common in the urban areas. Do you know, at the national level, cutting down of such losses by 12% gets transformed into 10 rupees 000 crore? We can prevent these losses only by the proactive participation of well-meaning officials and staff. Colluding elements have to be exposed and booked. Moreover, there is a need to create public awareness to cut down losses, as is being done by the Central Income Tax Department, Vigilance Commission, and Central Information Commission. Times metering. Fig. 1.7 shows some of the critical issues related to metering. Put a tick mark against each issue in Fig. 1.7 if your utility is affected by it. Fig. 1.7. Some critical issues in metering. Look at the screen for table content. Metering and billing of the distribution systems in India are in complete disarray. Inadequate and less reliable metering facilities make the commercial working of the utilities very difficult. According to the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, one half of the electricity supplied in the country is not metered. Either it is drawn directly from transmission lines or the meters are managed in connivance with unscrupulous elements. Fig. 1.8. Figure 1.8. Power theft by direct tapping. Look at the screen for table content. Times inefficient billing. Underbilling and non-billing is rampant in the electricity sector and is a major reason for commercial losses. What is more, media reports have time and again highlighted the fact that the government departments, residences of government officials, public opinion makers, and representatives are some of the biggest defaulters. We list some other major billing maladies in Table 1.3. Table 1.3. Some major billing maladies. Look at the screen for table content. Other factors like billing non-existent consumers, incorrect identification of category, lack of reconciliation, delays in audit of cycle summaries also contribute to commercial losses. In addition, bill distribution is not outsourced to competent vendors with a reliable network and tracking facilities. No surveillance is done on disconnected consumers. Defaulting consumers are not disconnected for long, and consumer ledgers are not updated regularly. Times inadequate revenue collection. Some of the reasons for inadequate revenue collection are insufficient collection avenues, infrequent updating of revenue accounts, unfriendly consumer commercial policies, non-existent or casual consumer surveys, non-compliance of regulatory issues, and poor energy accounting auditing. All the misdoings described above are in the last mile that continues to bleed with attendant losses of 40%, which are as high as 62% in some states. Such tremendous losses also impact the tariff critically. We next take up the issue of tariff structure and subsidies. Non-remunerative tariff structure and subsidies. Unviable tariffs further weaken the condition of the distribution utilities, and particularly the state electricity boards. Though the power to fix tariffs is vested with the utilities, in practice the tariff determination has all along been done by the state governments, invariably with political populist electoral considerations. There is political interference in setting of tariffs which results in substantial cross-subsidization in retail tariffs amongst various consumer categories. The tariff set by the government is not enough to meet the SEB's expenses. The industrial commercial consumers have subsidized and are still subsidizing a large section of the agricultural and domestic consumers. This leads to a skewed tariff structure, which needs to be rationalized through an independent regulatory body. You will read about this in Unit 2. Since the electricity pricing in, particularly, the domestic and agricultural sectors, has been done on pragmatic considerations rather than on a realistic basis, there has been scant regard for proper use of electricity amongst the beneficiaries. Proper and efficient utilization of electricity needs to be given the attention it deserves. The poor financial position of the state governments has not allowed them to provide adequate subsidies to the SEBs to compensate for the retail tariffs for agricultural and domestic consumers set at low levels. The cross-subsidies from the industries and the commercial consumers have already reached unsustainable levels in most states. This has led to considerable financial losses to the SEBs and erosion of their creditworthiness. As a result, the required capacity additions to the generation and the Tandi network to cater to the economic growth could not be made, leading to considerable deterioration in the quality and reliability of supply. This has also impacted consumer satisfaction. Privatization and restructuring of distribution utilities. This is a contentious issue and has been widely debated. Distribution reforms that involve regulatory and structural changes have been introduced due to the inability of the public sector to provide adequate resources services. Since the distribution sector is the weakest link in the entire supply chain, privatization was adopted as a means, in some parts, e.g., Orissa and Delhi in India, to improve the financial health of the sector and its service quality. The choice of privatization model, its process and sequencing is a real challenge before the sector. However, private distribution utilities in Ahmedabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, etc. have shown very good performance. You will study more about this issue in Unit 3 of this block. Low consumer satisfaction. You will agree that customers form the key to any service-oriented industry. The utility client contacts in electricity business are the highest in comparison to any other service. Though there are some signs of improvement, the concern for customers has been a relatively low priority. Customer service leaves much to be desired in areas such as giving new connections, solving the problems of supply disruptions, or taking care of the issues relating to bills. Electricity industry in the last few decades has been supplying power to customers under the culture that the organizations are not marketing power but giving power. It is a fact that there are customers who consume electricity and are reluctant to pay. It is also a fact that there are customers who are willing to pay and do pay, but they do not receive the right attention and service from the suppliers of electricity. This problem is not limited to SEBs. Even the private licensees have to give required attention to this subject and adopt customer-friendly policies and practices. Low consumer satisfaction also results from hard procedures for new consumers, rampant corruption and favors, lack of commercial approach, harassment of even genuine consumers, long chain for dispute resolutions, avoidable litigations, missing or erratic reconciliation, insufficient payment mechanisms, red tape in getting new connections, load enhancements and replacements. The single window exists only on paper, and even honest consumers are deterred. There is no business thrust to improve customer satisfaction. Another reason for low consumer satisfaction is the poor quality of power being supplied. Poor quality power. When we buy any good in the market, we check its quality and consider if it is worth the money we are spending. In respect of the power sector, we need to consider, do the consumers who buy electricity have a choice and a voice over the quality of power supplied? The fact is that while there are consumer courts for redressal, a majority of complaints remain unresolved. You will agree that you must ensure power quality in terms of uninterrupted power supply, non-fluctuating voltages, etc. Do the following events occur in your utility? Put yes, Y, or no, N, against each statement. Times the supply of electricity is erratic. Times power cuts, voltage fluctuations, 280 kV to 435 kV, fluctuations in frequency, 47.8 Hz to 53.3 Hz, are common. Times restoration of power and response to meter-related and bill complaints are tardy. Times when a consumer pays for the utility, is he or she allowed the liberty to call attention to these aspects? Times are any concessions made in this regard? Times are complaints addressed immediately? Remember, there will be opposition to tariff increases until such time as the consumer is not confident of the quality, steadiness, and reliability of power supply. The problem of quality has another dimension. How do workers in the utility serve citizens in terms of billing, metering, prompt attention to emergencies, and fixing new connections? The Electricity Act, 2003, has detailed provisions on the quality of service. We will take this up in the next unit. However, you can quickly answer the following questions to judge whether the quality of power and the service that your utility provides is good enough. Times how frequent and how long are the power cuts? Times how long does it take your utility to restore power supply? Times how stable is the voltage of the power supplied? Times how often are customers informed about load shedding? Times how long does it take to attend to the complaints, e.g., about the meter exaggerated bills? Times how long does it take to provide a new connection? If you have satisfactory answers to all these questions, you are doing a good job and giving your customer his/her money's worth. If not, then quality is a very big challenge for your utility. The sooner you recognize it, the easier it would be for you to contribute to reforms in your utility. Some other problems. Times almost 100% of the networks are overhead, which makes the system quite vulnerable to weather conditions. Times inadequate reactive compensation leading to poor quality of power supply. Times inadequacy of load management leading to peaks and valleys which are beyond manageable limits. Times poor reliability of supply. Does your utility suffer from one or more of the above problems as well? Write yes or no against each question above. So far, you have studied the problems, issues, and challenges faced, in general, by power distribution utilities. You have also done exercises to assess your own utility. Do these challenges seem insurmountable or can they be overcome? We now briefly discuss this issue. What can be done? Well, the first step is to generate enough power. Network capacity addition to the system commensurate with the load growth should be done on a priority basis. New legislations for regulating the electricity supply industry in the country and the ensuing reforms are welcome steps in this direction, and we shall discuss these in the next 2 units of this block. You would agree that electricity distribution has to be looked upon as a consumer service. The present power distribution systems require regular strengthening, upgrading, and modernization. This requires capital investment. Do you know? The power shortages in the country are so large that almost 8,000 megawatts to 10,000 megawatts of additional capacity is required every year. This alone would require a capital investment of the order of Rs. 40,000 crore per year on generation and matching investment would be required on transmission and distribution networks. Any ideas where this magnitude of investment can be sourced from? At this stage, you may like to stop and review the issues and challenges facing the power distribution sector to get a holistic picture. Work out the following suck. Quite a bit can be done by a distribution utility to meet these challenges and solve the problems at its own level. This is what you are going to learn in the remaining part of this course as well as the other 2 courses. Here we shall briefly chart out some measures to end this unit on the positive note that with the determination and will to succeed, we shall overcome. Revenue realization and reduction in Atank losses. Revenue collection can be increased and Atank losses can be minimized by times infusion of technology, times improving metering efficiency, times proper energy accounting and auditing, times improved billing and collection efficiency, and times professional managerial practices. Look at the screen for table content. Fig. 1.9 Some measures that can be taken to address the challenges before the power distribution sector. Over the last decade, a lot of technological advancements have been made in the areas of metering and billing with the introduction of electronic meters. However, consumer awareness in this respect is very poor, and the utilities need to spread awareness about this aspect. Revenue collection could also be improved by holding employees of power utilities to be responsible for this activity and providing incentives to them. Improving customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction can be improved by A. Enhancing consumer convenience, a commercial call center to deal with all kinds of bill and meter-related complaints and fully networked consumer care centers for quick redressal of consumers' complaints could be established. B. Providing ample bill payment avenues, information on consumption, billing and payment should be made available online to all consumers to view bills, print duplicate bills, and make payments through the web. C. Providing better quality power in terms of voltage fluctuations and reliability by reducing power cuts. These require ensuring that the system is renovated and maintained in proper working condition. D. Putting in place a customer complaint redressal mechanism that is more responsive and proactive. The system should be capable enough to meet the growing demand of information-conscious customers. Adopting better management practices. Operational efficiency improvement and customer servicing also need to be addressed at various levels in the organization. Successful management services revolve around tariff management. meter management, credit and collection management, payables and receivables, business functionality and regular technology refresh, improving the bottom line in customer care, possessing competitive agility, invoking right operations, and monitoring quantitative and qualitative benefits. Maintaining performance standards should be given due attention. An effective management information system, MIS, could be used to ensure effective and timely flow of accurate information to facilitate quick decision-making at various levels of organization and improve operation and management of the distribution system. MIS should be able to take care of different needs at various levels. Otherwise, huge data generated from MIS will not be of any significant use. The structure of MIS should be SEB specific because of the difference in their organizational structures and responsibilities at various levels across the organization. You will study in detail about the management of power distribution utilities in the course on management of power distribution. In case of privatization of distribution, safeguards need to be put in place. Private participation should be subject to definite, time-bound goals of improving quality and reliability of supply. The government should provide support such as control of theft and provision of subsidy during the transition phase. Application of information technology. Nowadays, information technology and computer-aided tools for revenue realization, reduction in power cuts, monitoring and control, etc., play a vital role in distribution management. Creation of comprehensive, up-to-date consumer index and system databases on computerized platforms is essential for efficient commercial and technical operation and management of any distribution system. The energy accounting, billing, and revenue management can be computerized to provide better services to the customers. Development of digital mapping of the entire assets of distribution system, computerized load flow studies, GIS, Geographic Information System, mapping, SCADA, supervisory control, and data acquisition system are some other IT applications for long-term strengthening of the distribution system. You will learn more about these areas in Blocks 3 and 4 of the course BEE-002 entitled Energy Management and IT Applications. Improving governance in the sector. The focus should be on improving governance so that reforms are more compatible with broader sustainable development goals. You should understand that the distribution industry today has become complex and demanding. Electric utilities are no more monopolistic enterprises. Competition in this sector is being encouraged. Every utility, public or private, has to demonstrate concrete achievements in reductions in attendant losses and increase in collections. Cost effectiveness is the key to remain in business. Several reform initiatives have been undertaken to improve the functioning of utilities. Concerted efforts are being made to meet investment requirement for capacity building in the state, improve operational efficiencies and quality of supply, and improve the financial viability of the sector and its overall management. You will study about these efforts in detail in Unit 3 after you have studied about the regulatory framework in Unit 2. We would like to end this unit on this note and summarize its main ideas.
1.4 Summary. In this unit, we have presented a bird's eye view of the power generation sector with a special focus on the key issues and challenges facing the power distribution utilities. These may be outlined as follows: shortage of power, poor management of distribution utilities, high technical and commercial losses, including theft and pilferage of electricity, non-remunerative tariff structure, privatization and restructuring, low consumer satisfaction, poor quality power. The major reasons for power shortage lie in lack of adequate generation of power and infrequent breakdowns in the power distribution system. The poor management of distribution utilities is responsible for many ills such as poor infrastructure, financial crunch, power theft and misuse, corruption, etc. Times high aggregate technical and commercial losses, at and c, in the range of 50% result from a number of factors such as ill-maintained equipment and substations, aging transformers, inadequate investments for infrastructure improvement, overloading of system elements, insufficient reactive compensation, etc. Times non-remunerative tariff structure further weakens the condition of the distribution utilities, and particularly the state electricity boards. There is substantial cross-subsidization in retail tariffs amongst various consumer categories. Times privatization and restructuring has been adopted as a means to streamline the distribution sector, which is considered to be the weakest link in the entire supply chain. The choice of privatization model, its process and sequencing is a real challenge before the sector. Times low consumer satisfaction results from frequent power cuts, load shedding, inability to provide good customer complaint redressal service, lack of responsiveness in giving new connections, solving the problems of supply disruptions or taking care of the issues relating to bills. Times the problems of poor quality of power supply, which is erratic, with massive voltage fluctuations, 280 kV to 435 kV, are quite common. Times other problems include 100% overhead networks which make the system quite vulnerable to weather conditions, inadequate load management leading to peaks and valleys which are beyond manageable limits and highly unreliable power supply. Times many steps can be taken by the utilities to meet these challenges. Some of these are improving metering efficiency, proper energy accounting and auditing, improved billing and collection efficiency, fixing of accountability of the personnel feeder managers which may help considerably in reduction of attend class, providing better quality power in terms of voltage fluctuations and reliability by reducing power cuts, better maintenance, renovation and modernization. Instituting a customer complaint redressal mechanism, which is more responsive and proactive. Adopting better management practices. Application of information technology.